Host, His Excellency the Governor of Plateau State, the Right Honorable Simon Bakola Long, represented today by the Head of Service, Mr. Izang Asi, MNI, His Excellency the Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, represented by the Secretary to the State Government of Nasarawa State, Barrister Mohammed Ubandoma Aliu, the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Lucky Rabo, represented by the Special Task Force Commander of Plateau State, Major General D.C. Oyemulu, His Majesty the Gwangwam Jos Da Elder Jacob Giang Buba, CON, represented by His Royal Highness Chairman Atta Aten Ganawuri, the Andoma of Doma, the Acting Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, Brigadier General Chukwuemeka Odaya, retired, MNI, the family of Professor Habu Galadima, guest lecturers Professor Augustine Ikelegbe and Professor Sam Egu, members of the Alumni Association of the National Institute, senior staff and management of the National Institute, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. In the rather short period that I had to interact with him, Professor Galadima made a truly indelible impression on me. To start with, I could not but notice the fresh energy and the calm impetus that he brought to bear upon his duties as Director General of the National Institute. He had a deep conviction about the need to reposition the Institute as the country's foremost think tank and one of the leading institutions on the continent. And this reflected most vividly in the profundity of his thoughts and his diligence and devotion to his assignment as Director General. I came to learn that this was not a newfound path for Professor Galadima. All through his distinguished career, he had robustly engaged some of our nation's most pressing challenges, notably those revolving around conflict, peace building, security, federalism, and demilitarization. His intellectual interventions and research and conversations about the future of our nation always showed great hope, born not just out of patriotism, but from his own lived experience as a highly successful academic and public intellectual. His studies, his consulting, and teaching all around the Commonwealth and internationally clearly showed him the immense capabilities of our nation, and he never ceased to express this. He and I spoke about a new emphasis for the Institute, which is thinking through implementation, that we have to go beyond being a think tank. We have to become more of a do tank. I first met Professor Galadima in 2015. He was then a directing staff when the then management staff and alumni of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies paid me a courtesy visit and briefed me on the activities and challenges of the Institute. At the meeting, he easily distinguished himself as deeply reflective and forward-thinking. And within the short period he served as Director General of the Institute, Professor Galadima built bridges of relationships, of fellowships across intellectual divides and across all other known obstacles. He initiated various reforms aimed at repositioning the Institute to accomplish its mandates, including a review of the criteria for admission of candidates into the senior executive course and the quality of research works undertaken by the senior executive course participants. He also paid a great deal of attention to the welfare of the staff of the Institute. He constantly consulted with my office on ways to handle emerging challenges, and he struck me as a good team player who always carried his colleagues along in the implementation of the Institute's mandate. At what turned out to be our last meeting on December 3rd last year, Professor Galadima led members of the 42nd Senior Executive Course to the customary parley with Mr. President and ministers at the State House. As I recall very clearly, his comments and contributions were as usual incisive, and he opened the discussion and introduced the research report produced by the graduating students. Then, as always, his desire for a greater Nigeria and a more impactful institute was clear and unmistakable. Thereafter, I had another session with him and the institute's management team just later on that day. This time, the discussion focused on the institute and its administration, strenuous efforts to make it better still. But sadly, that would be the last time that I would see him. Urgent personal matters and matters of state kept me from attending the graduation ceremony of the 42nd course. And that would be my first time in my years of being the presiding, of being guest of honor at the Institute's events that I did not attend. But that would be the last time that we meet. And sadly, I did not have that occasion. I did not have the opportunity of meeting him on that occasion. Regardless, this is how I will remember Professor Galadima, as an intellectual and a distinguished, forthright public servant who devoted himself tirelessly to the task of elevating the institution over which he had been given charge, and who answered the call of duty right until the moment that he drew his last breath. It was my pleasure to have worked with Professor Galadima, and it's my prayer that his family, friends, and associates will receive comfort, grace, and fortitude to bear this great loss. I also hope that his dreams for the National Institute will come to fruition, and that those whose lives he touched will carry on and entrench his legacy. May his memory